Hello, friends and fellows of the internet, it's me, Chaz, and today it's about time I talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. You may have seen me do a reaction video to it a while ago, back in February or whatever, that got taken down, and then I had to re-upload it, and I had a bunch of issues with that. But anyways, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. We are currently a few weeks away from E3, not that long, maybe about 3 weeks away from Nintendo's press conference, a little bit more than that. Pokemon is a very important franchise to me. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Pokemon, and I'm sure a lot of you guys could say the same. A lot of people get their start with Pokemon, myself included, and I also think that it's a very important gaming franchise just based on the impact and amount of money that it makes, honestly. Like, it just has so much pull, not only in the industry, in a console's life cycle, but also just in the world at large. I mean, we've seen so many different merchandising tie-ins and everything, and Pokemon's huge, and I'm kind of glad it is, because that means I have so many people to share my love for this franchise with. So today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about 5 things I want in Pokemon Sword and Shield. First thing I want, and this isn't in any particular order, by the way, guys, I don't really want to do an ordered list for this because I don't think all these things are going to happen, because quite frankly I think Nintendo's going to play it pretty safe with this, and obviously none of my changes are like revolutionary, but I do think that some of them are going to be a little bit too much for the developers for this first big HD full core Pokemon game that isn't a remake. So without further ado, let's get right into it. One of the first things that I want is Pokeball Plus support. So back when Pokemon Let's Go came out, the responses to the Pokeball Plus were kind of mixed. Some people really liked it, some people really didn't. But in my opinion, it's got a lot of interesting tech in it, and I actually did really enjoy using it to play Pokemon Let's Go. And yes, I am one of the people, although I am a pretty big Pokemon fan, I actually did really like Pokemon Let's Go. But yeah, I really think that the Pokeball Plus would be nice to come back, because I think, firstly, it's really approachable for kids. And I think that it's a really, really nice, it just feels good, and it's a really cool piece of tech, and I think that its integration with Pokemon Go would be really interesting, especially, like, if they skip, because right now they're working on getting all the Sinnoh Pokemon out. If they kind of skipped Gen 5 and Gen 6 and Gen 7, and they focused on getting the new Pokemon from Sword and Shield in Pokemon Go, I think that would be a really big deal, and I think that could play into some interesting Go integration with Pokemon Go, maybe getting like Meltan into the game or something. But I don't want it to be like a huge amount of Go interaction, but I do think that the Pokeball Plus in general is just a really nice piece of tech, and I think the concept of being able to take your Pokemon out on a walk with you, like you were able to in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver with the Pokewalker, was a super cool idea. I personally use that all the time. I was only 10 when that game came out, and I have so many fond childhood memories of getting in trouble at school having that Pokewalker with me, man. But yeah, I just really like that concept of like kind of being able to have something more than just a digital footprint of a Pokemon, because the Pokeball Plus had all that tech in it where you could like vibrate it, you could like pet it and shake it, and it would like make noises and vibrate and stuff. And I really think that's cool. Another thing that I want is like a good amount of post or minigame content. So in the Gen 2 remakes, Gen 4, and as well as Gen 5 and Gen 6, and most of the 3DS games, to be honest, they've done a pretty good job of having post game content. Especially the post game and like extra content on the side. Like Generation 2, obviously you can go to another region, which is huge. I mean, that's hours of extra game, and honestly, it's probably just to beef up Johto. But also in Gen 2, in the Gen 2 remakes, you have the Pokeathlon, which was something that some people were like kind of lukewarm on. But I remember me and my friends, we all loved it. And I actually, every time, I've played through Heart Gold and Soul Silver a bunch of times, and I've always really enjoyed going back to those games for whatever reason, and especially the Pokeathlon. I think just like the different things that you can do to like give your Pokemon boosts and all the different kinds of Pokemon there are, and how every Pokemon is different. I think it's really, really interesting how the ways that works. So I think that's just a really fun time. And then like in Gen 6 and Gen 7, there were whole new storylines, and same thing with with the Gen 3 remakes in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. You had that whole Delta Emerald event. That was awesome. And then just Gen 5 in general just has a really strong story, and they kind of have really interesting ways of continuing that story, especially in Black and White 2 in the post game. And I just really think it would be good because this is a bigger title, because this is probably going to be $60, because this is going to be the first traditional Pokemon game on console. I think introducing more post game and more just general minigame and other sort of content is a really good idea. I mean, even something as small as like the underground mode from Sinnoh, I think that would also be really fun. I remember having a lot of good memories in that as well. But I do think that that just expanding the amount of content in the game is going to be very, very important for just maintaining the people with this. And that actually ties into what I want. Another thing that I really, really, really want is that you can go to Kalos. So a lot of people who know me in real life will verify this, but I am a huge Francophile. I love French food. I love the French language. I love the country in general. I love the architecture. I just love it. I've only been there once. It was really, really awesome, and I loved it because of that. And I actually played X and Y while I was there, and that whole experience was really magical. And it was. I mean, that's not the main reason why I love X and Y so much, but I really, really did like X and Y for a lot of reasons. And I think being able to revisit Kalos, because it was a very beautiful region, it was just kind of held back a little bit by the tech on the 3DS. But I think if we were able to revisit Kalos, because in the real world, the proximity between England and France or the UK and France is super, super small. I mean, there's literally a famous train that goes under the ocean into France. There's huge train stations in Kalos, and we've seen trains in Galar. So I do think that some interplay between Galar and Kalos would be really interesting, especially because we've heard talk about a war and everything. And I do think that that being able to go in between the two might just be like a really, really nice way to bolster the amount of content in the game. And even I think that even if Kalos isn't included in the base game, I personally would not be in any way opposed to being able to sort of do what Ash does and have the privilege to go to another region, start from a certain point, leave all your all your old Pokemon in the old region, and then start anew, and pay like $30 for that as DLC. I think that'll be a really, really good way of kind of keeping the longevity of Sword and Shield up while the next Pokemon games are being made, because we don't really know how the release cycle for these new console Pokemon games are going to go. And I do think that may have an effect, because it's on a console. I do think that longer development time may have an effect on how often we get these new Pokemon games. Because for a while, it's been that we basically get one every year. I mean, we had one in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, or no, not 2013, 2014, and I think they also took a year off in 2015. Or no, they didn't take a year off in 2015. Anyways, we've had one pretty frequently for the past few years now, and I'm worried about whether or not that's going to be tried to be kept up with the current like scope and scale of these Pokemon games, assuming they're a bit of a bigger scope. And from what we've seen, it seems like they will be. And obviously, even if we're not able to go to other regions, I do think it would be important to like have some kind of Pokemon Bank integration. That's not part of the this isn't part of the like top 5 features I want. I think this is a necessity. We need to have Pokemon Bank because people need to be able to transfer their stuff. I mean, people are going to be so mad if they can't transfer their stuff from their 3DS to Sword and Shield. And I do think that that the easiest way to do it is just have the 3DS app and the mobile app run on the same server, connect the 2 accounts, easy as pie. And you could even put that through the Nintendo Online app, or just have like a separate free download for an app and just download that. Because I really do think that, especially like competitive players who've put just like blood, sweat, and tears into these bigger teams, like breeding them and breeding them and breeding them and training them just perfectly, I think that it's going to be the best. Like, they're going to want to have their Pokemon back. And obviously, they don't have to introduce that until the post game, but I still think it's something they have to have. For my last thing, this is kind of an idea that I've been tossing around with my friends for a long time. I've actually heard people kind of talk about something similar, but one of the things about the Switch, and I'm sure all of you guys know this, is that it's geared towards multiplayer in a way that no other console really is. It literally ships with two controllers. And this is really the one that I really, well, I don't want as much as going to Kalos because I loved Kalos, but I really want this idea because I think it's a super smart idea. I think that the physical version of every game should ship with an amiibo card. You guys have all seen amiibo cards. We got one with Pokken. We've gotten Animal Crossing amiibo cards. They work. They're a pretty interesting idea, and I think the collectibleness or the collectability of them is also pretty cool, especially because they're cheaper than the actual figures, which I have spent way too much money on. But I think it would be cool if every copy of Sword and Shield came with the ability to get an amiibo card. And what the amiibo card does is it stores a specific battle team or even an entire PC box in the card, so that when you go over to a friend's house and you guys want to have a Pokemon battle, you can just tap your amiibo card and you can have your team there. Now, the way the battles themselves would work locally is, now I'm not sure about you guys, but I personally, growing up I was a kid during the Wii generation, and we had a game called Pokemon Battle Revolution. Now that was a kind of in the Pokemon Battle Coliseum franchise series sort of thing, and the way it handled local battles was, you and your opponent picked Pokemon, and then you would press buttons on the controller to figure out what action you would do so that the other person didn't see you selecting the move. And I think that's really smart. I think that you could really do a lot of smart stuff with that. And I think that would be really good for local multiplayer. And I think that's something that this game really needs, considering it's on the Switch. Yes, Pokemon is primarily a single-player experience, or a single console experience, but a one console per person experience, but I really believe that in order to take advantage of the Switch's hardware, I think that having something like the amiibo card idea with something akin to a Battle Revolution mode would be really awesome. And it would also be really cool for just like if you just want to hang out with your friends. This way you don't have to both be looking at your Switches. You can both be like hanging out, and you can have it up on your TV rather than both of it in handheld, and you get to see these beautiful HD textures and hear this music coming through some speakers rather than the Switch's smaller speakers. Anyways, guys, thank you all very much for watching. Feel free to tell me down in the comments below what you think of what I want. Tell me also what you want in Pokemon Sword and Shield, and hopefully we get to see some of this stuff revealed in the Direct that was just announced while I was recording this video. Anyways, guys, I'll see you on the next video. Have a good one. Peace out.